Here's the final video in the Watercolor Palette Redo trilogy, where I make the chart to keep inside my main palette. The series started in October, and at the time it amused me to title them this way, to tie in with the whole spooky/horror themes for the season. Of course, now, in November, it just sounds like a weak attempt to Halloweenify everything I was doing that month. What once tasted like sweet and salty wit is actually more like the chocolate bar I once slept on, only for it to become a squashed mess covering half of my face. Hey, I was 12. Don't judge. And can you imagine what went through my mind when the first thing I saw that morning was a brown smear on my pillowcase? It wasn't, oh boy, breakfast. That's for sure. Anyway, since we've already sort of gone over these colors, I'll be talking about random things in this voiceover. Well, more random than usual, that is. If that isn't your thing, I won't feel bad if you provide your own soundtrack to the visuals. If I may make a suggestion, how about Nate Bargatze's comedy special, The Tennessee Kid, on Netflix? It's not exactly new, but after 6 viewings, I still haven't gotten tired of it. To any new viewers, welcome to my arting channel. To returning viewers, so glad you've come back. You might notice something different here, and that's the desktop surface. I'm not good at identifying woods, but I think this is like birch. Anyway, it's an improvement from the previous plastic banquet table. And I hid the fact that it was a plastic banquet table by covering it with boards and mats wherever I could. This is a drafting table I've had for maybe 25 years. It's been in the corner of the room with piles of paper and art supplies on it. But there's recently been a reorganizing of my studio, which is approximately 10 by 10 feet, because a wonderful family member installed a custom-built desktop for me in the closet space. That now acts as my computer and planning center, while the drafting table has become the arting and filming spot. I'm very fortunate to have not only a dedicated studio area, but also family members that help me out. And that's something I plan to talk a little more about in a future video. In a comment on the last session, Black Cat in the Black Box offered some great ideas for strengthening producer Mike's watercolor palette. And when it came time to make this chart for my own palette redo, that made me reassess some of my choices. I decided to remove quinacridone burnt orange and mummy bauxite. Then I added Naples yellow and Venetian red. Yeah, I had intended my palette to be mostly transparent or semi-transparent, but after thinking on it some more, I came to the conclusion that one shouldn't be too strict about these things. And if it turns out to not be the best idea, well, c'est la vie. Speaking as someone who once woke up with a Milky Way bar stuck to her face, perfection is overrated. By the way, I fudged on the facts earlier. I was actually 16 at the time and should have known better. Oh, speaking of the previous video, I want to give credit to Jane Blundell's informative blog, which played a part in producer Mike's initial color choices. I hadn't looked into that artist before, but after checking out her website, she's obviously very knowledgeable. On the subject of helpful resources, thanks to several pertinent questions from viewer Lemur King, I discovered some good info at Watercolor Affair. When asked if he'd visited the site, producer Mike said, and I'm quoting here, "No, because I didn't want to get in trouble." Today's nail color is Americano from Clean Color Nail Lacquer. Yeah, it's a repeat, but then it's no secret that I'm cheap when it comes to nail polish. Heck, an actual Americano from Starbucks costs more than a bottle of Clean Color, which is why I have a basic one-button Mr. Coffee machine. so that I can drink my shake-inducing sludge for pennies per cup. That and our previous pricier coffee makers kept conking out on us. So we downgraded, because I'd rather be disappointed by a $20 appliance than by a $60 one. One of the reasons I like browns so much might be due to how many yummy foods are in those shades. Honey, caramel, chocolate, gravy, coffee. It's hard to disassociate, I guess. Speaking of associations, this one is really tenuous and somewhat obscure, but there's a piece of music by Czech composer Oskar Nedbal called The Tale of Hansa that has one of the saddest waltzes I've ever heard. So that tune comes to mind whenever I see Hansa yellows. So if I sniffle a little while painting a lemon or a sunflower, you'll know why. And amethyst genuine doesn't make me think of gemstones, but rather the Italian plum tree at my childhood home. The one we would climb onto to shake the branches so the ripened plums would fall. Never mind that more often than not, a bunch of bugs and spiders would also rain down, causing me to run screaming into the house. Looking at this completed chart, I'm pleased with it. Of course, I might be even more happy if I simply took viewer Stephanie Reed's advice and got a bigger palette. Someday, perhaps. Thanks for all of the comments, guys and gals, and please know that I very much appreciate the input. That wraps up the Watercolor Palette Redo Trilogy. Until next time, keep your snacks in the pantry, not in your bedding, and stay artsy, my friends.